Hi, I'm gonna talk about web accessibility at Peakon. Let's get started. Just a little bit about me. My name is Albert. I am a front-end engineer at Peakon, where I have been working for almost 4 years now. And I have been involved in many different areas of the front-end, building features and building a component library, tuning. But I have always also been an accessibility advocate here. I am a remote employee from Barcelona, and you can find me on GitHub and LinkedIn at AlbertFTP. So reach out if you want to hear about it. Yeah, let's start. So a little bit about what is Peakon before I give the talk. So Peakon is an employee engagement platform where we are continuous listening. We help employees drive the change they want to see on their companies. And when we do that, we are providing a platform that looks like this. You could describe it in two big areas: the employee survey, where the employees will use this survey, a survey that is depicted here, similar like this, where they will be asked a few questions about engagement, and they will be able to answer them via 0 to 10. They also can provide text and comments. And one important thing is that all of this remains anonymous. And then on the other side, we have the manager dashboard. That's where the managers actually receive this content and the scores are being aggregated and displayed in a high level so that anonymity is kept. And then they can compare the scores against other teams, benchmark, etc. And indeed, they can also even interact with the comments that the employees have left. They can acknowledge, start conversations, etc. And we have a huge data set so far now, with almost 150 million responses and 27 million comments. So it's quite a huge data set. And we built we are in a JavaScript shop at Peakon. Everything is JavaScript, except some data science projects, because Python is the go-to language in that world. But everything else, we use JavaScript. In the front-end side of things, we also use a monorepo approach. And we have recently started introducing GraphQL and Apollo, and that's something that is very exciting. But if we move on now to accessibility, I would like to talk, just briefly introduce what accessibility is. And if you pick the metaphor of a library as the source of human knowledge, and you look at this building, you can see that there are some barriers right now that are depicted by these stairs, right? But the thing about accessibility is that not everything that you immediately see is the only barriers. If you actually are able to go through those stairs because there is an elevator or ramp somewhere, you actually get to the books. You might actually struggle reading because maybe you are a blind person, and if there is no audio alternative or a braille alternative, then you still have not been able to get to the content. And web accessibility is the same thing, just brought to the digital world. And one thing I want to mention is that when software and it's built using web accessibility and with having this in mind, it benefits every user and not only the users that actually need those. For example, when I am on a crowded place and I have forgotten my headphones, I can watch a video using subtitles because it's a feature that was initially could have been built to support people who are deaf, but now I can also get benefited of that. So in summary, web accessibility is that ramp to the web here being the library of the digital world. And it is something that is used for everyone, can access everything in an equal way. And it's important both for individuals themselves who can now read the book, but the businesses, because now they can reach more customers, and the society as a whole that can make sure that all citizens have equal opportunity. And to do so, there are some standards, and the current one is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1, which is what we have been working at Peakon this year. And let me explain you what has been our journey. So as I mentioned earlier, accessibility is very important for us for many reasons, the ones that I have just explained, but also because we want to hear every voice. And furthermore, because anonymity is such an important thing. And for a survey to be anonymous, you need to be able to respond to it independently. So for this reason, we have always put a lot of effort on making the survey to be as accessible as possible. But maybe the manager dashboard has been neglected a little bit. So for that reason, this year in 2020, we wanted to change that and bring the manager dashboard to the same level of compliance that we had on the survey. And how do we do that? So we started by bringing a third party to do an audit on our site, which we use then as a starting point and to understand what were our main problems. Then we also use it to plan how we were going to take them. And that was very helpful. There are some automated tools that can also do part of this job. But the reality is that they will normally only catch between 25 and 50% of all the issues. And I'm actually going to explain how that has been a challenge, because you cannot rely on automation only in order to ensure that your site is accessible. Another challenge that we had is how we can make sure that building accessible components and websites is the easy thing to do for the developers in our team. And finally, how we can make sure that we provide enough context to the users of assistive technologies when using the manager dashboard via those tools. So the first example, I'm going to use is color. So color is an overlooked problem, but it's something that is very easy to automate. It's very simple to have a tool that goes every page on your product, checks every DOM node, and compares the color of the text with the color in the background, and then it checks that there is enough accessibility. And fortunately, even though that actually we had a few issues with the contrast, we also went through a rebrand this year, which helped us actually pick the right colors when we were doing the rebrand and tackle two problems at once. And you can see the improvement of the contrast. Might be a bit difficult to see here on the slides, but it actually helped a lot the readability of the. But now you can see here that there is another problem with color, and this one cannot be catched by automation. So this feature is a segment heat map, which means that is a feature that where the managers can log in and compare the scores of different segments, and segments being teams, could be offices, or could be other departments. And then they can compare the scores against other drivers of engagement, which means that using the color, we convey some information, because you can quickly see that the ones that are darker green mean that are doing better, and the ones that are red, then that means that they are doing worse. But obviously, if you run a tool, then there is no contrast issues. But if you are a colorblind person, then you might not actually be able to get that information. So that's why we built a deuteranopia mode, where you can change the color theme, and actually it's something that helps you get the same kind of information. Another thing that I had mentioned was how we can make easy for developers to write the right thing. And one big problem, I think, is that in order to write an accessible website, you need to write like very, semantic HTML and in correct heading order, for instance. But one of the advantages of the web, which is its resilience, like you can write broken HTML, invalid HTML, and the browser will render it fine. Or in this case, you can put headings like heading level 1 and then level 3 and then level 4 without any particular order, and it will work. It will work, but assistive technologies will complain or might not be able to actually grasp all the information. So since as developers, we are building components that we might not necessarily know where they're going to be placed at the end on the DOM, because we have a lot of dynamic components. models, and so on, it can be difficult. So what we did is take advantage of the React context and write some heading and section components that, depending on where in the tree they will be positioned, they will render a different heading level, which meant that the page works automatically, and it helps us developers make sure that it will be fine no matter where you put your component. And finally, the last big challenge that we had was how do we give enough context when we are using assistive technologies. In here, you can see an example of a user using a screen reader who is filtering the segments, the comments page, and it's applying some filter, and then the amount of comments that there are after doing this action is a bit lower, right? So we need to provide the user some information which is additional to the information that they had before. And you will see at the end, here that we show 155 matching comments. And how do we do that? So that we do that via other components, utility components that we wrote, like in this case, the visually hidden component that you can use to, when you build a component, make sure that assistive technologies have enough information when using your features. And finally, and this is just to add into the same thing, since we are a very data-driven company, we have a lot of graphs, a lot of infographics, and it's definitely a very challenging thing to actually represent those kind of information in a way that can be used in screen readers or other assistive technologies. And in fact, I think it's not something that we have solved completely, and we are still working in some areas. But in here, I'm just showing an example of how this distribution graph is being read when using a screen reader. So finally, the outcomes of this year work is that I think the first one is that we have learned so much as a team. We have increased our knowledge of HTML and assistive technologies so much. We have also improved our tooling to catch the easy mistakes. And we also have like much better components that assist us on writing those very accessible systems. But I think finally, one thing is to keep that we keep listening to the customers. Since we have so many customers responding to the survey, it means that there are actually quite a big representation of people using screen readers and so on. And sometimes we get an email in support of a user that is struggling to use a feature. And I think that while he might be struggling at that moment, I think it helps us reconsider that feature, improve it, and make it better for everyone. So I think that is something that we should be very proud of. Finally, I just want to finish saying that if you are interested in working in this kind of challenges and making employee engagement accessible to everyone, then you can find us on peakon.com careers, and we are growing and hiring a lot of positions this year. So thank you very much.